Hello, everyone. Uh, I'm sorry. Thank you all for being here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I wanted to talk today. So, in the process of all the recordings and everything else we've done, I've had many of you reach out to me who have asked uh, um, to explain or re-explain because people have forgotten. What do I mean when I talk about the torsion field of the Guardian Alliance of Light? So I have gone over the history and the notes. I was going to send a whole bunch of links to everybody, and I thought, no, if one person is asking about it, it's because many people have questions. So I rather do, and it's going to be 3 classes, and it's going to tie everything together. It's going to pull in together not only what the torsion field of the Guardian Alliance of Light is, or who are the Guardian Alliance of Light to begin with, but and which is what we're going to focus on today. And then it's going to also tie in. It's 3 classes. Next week we're going to talk about the merger and the mighty I am presence, how your monadic family and having it sit in the torsion field is interconnected, and thirdly, how the idea of broadcast connects the two together as a 3rd class, okay? And I will explain all of this in greater detail as the other classes move on. Okay. I was not always neutral, okay? As it said now, I'm not completely neutral, but for a while there, I was a warrior of light. I had my sword in hand for many, 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 many eons, battling for light. I did all kinds of things, and I can tell you I have actual memories of all of the marginal behavior that I did in the name of light. Because when you're battling, and you're battling supposedly darkness and so on and so forth, you do a lot of things that are in the edge, or if not in the margin, as a way to try to get tactical advantage so that you can win a battle. And it was not until this lifetime that I began to understand. The word neutrality is dictionary definition. I understand it. But it's not like being Switzerland. I will explain. I had a situation where, and the way I encountered the Guardian Alliance of Light was purely by karma and circumstances in this lifetime. I have a feeling in past lives I've circled that road multiple times before, but I understood something much deeper, and the Guardian showed up for me. So the way it happened, I was Retreat Center in Guyville, upstate, a property I purchased as a place to have do light work. Then what happened is that I got introduced to there was a spiritual community, a family in a small village that's 5 minutes away from my house. And it so happened that the family there started trying to attack me, spiritually speaking, thinking that I was some sort of like a threat that was going to overtake their community and so on and so forth. And these people began by stealing my mail, because I had rural delivery on the street. They began to steal my mail. I didn't notice it. What I noticed at first was the fact that every time I was in the house, I used to have horrible nightmares of being attacked. Okay? The attack didn't scare me because I'm from Haiti. The stuff that you throw at me in dreams and so on and so forth are not necessarily spooky to me, in that I have had so much experience in my childhood growing up in that island, that I am a little bit more seasoned. And so although there was something that was uncomfortable about having these experiences, but it wasn't scary to me. It's when my mail began to be stolen that I began to realize something is not right. Because every week I go there on weekends, every week when I go there, There's always, even the supermarket, somebody sending me a flower, even if I don't have mail. Something is always being delivered. Nothing. By the third week, I went to the post office in the village. I asked them, have you been delivering? They said, yeah, once a week we put your mail. I'm like, it's not there. And then they said to me, well, do you suspect that you know who it is? I said, yes, indeed I do. Because these people came into my mind, and I thought, okay. And they asked me, well, you should report it to the sheriff. And I was on my way to do this. And then suddenly something told me, Pierre, you're not there during the week. If you report these people, this is open battle. You don't want to end up having somebody set up fire to your house. You're not there during the week. You don't want this kind of thing. Walk away. I immediately signed up for a post office box so that my mail would be in the post office to solve that problem. So that was solved for me. 2 weeks later, I'm arriving and I'm leaving work on Friday, 6 o'clock. By the time I get there, it's 9 p.m. It's pitch black. It's rural. I don't see any of my neighbors. There are no street lights. I walked in, and the moment I opened the door, I could feel that, like I was violated, like somebody else was in the house. I could feel it. And I began to run around, turn off the light, looking at all the doors. And finally, when I got to the basement, I realized the basement door was kicked in. I realized somebody was inside the house itself. They didn't just roam around the property, they went in. I got very nervous. There was a friend that was a member of that community that came, that doesn't live too far. I called a friend. She did a prayer treatment for me. And we talked for almost an hour and a half, if not 2 hours. Because my first, okay, here's my thing. I am not afraid of energy, of dark energy, okay? I am, as I said, I'm a little bit more seasoned than most people, having grown up in Haiti. I am a little bit more experienced on how to handle a lot of that stuff. It doesn't scare me. But bullets are a different story, because it's upstate, everyone has a gun. My concern is that somebody was going to come in and shoot me. And in those woods, they wouldn't find my body for months, if not forever. So I didn't want to be there. I wanted to flee. And I remember in the course of the conversation, my friend I was talking to said to me, well, why don't you send everything back? And I actually had the capability. And I almost did that before I made the call. I almost did, because I have enough knowledge in esoteric and in theurgy to know what to do to send things back. But something at that moment, right before the conversation, said to me, no, Pierre, at the level you're at, if you send anything back, you're gonna level whoever is on the other side. You cannot do this. And I stopped. And I repeat this to my friend, and she did the prayer treatment for me, and I was able to calm down. I went downstairs. And after the conversation, we hung up the phone, I went downstairs to do a meditation. And the moment I did the meditation, the first thing I did, and understand the sequence, the first thing I did is that instead of following my instinct of fear and panic, which is to retaliate back by sending, like in ping pong, retaliate, send the dark energy back, I decided the instinct inside of me said, no, do not do this. Okay? That was an emancipation from what would have been a normal course, a kind of reactive emotional response. When I went downstairs to pray, I was calm. The prayer treatment was very powerful, very healing. I was calm. I took deep breath, and I began to do the pranayama, the universal breath. And as I was doing the breath, all of a sudden, all that I could utter or say out in my consciousness into God was, help me. Help me. Because I feel overwhelmed and besieged, help me. And the moment I did this, I was inside this white space, this immense volume of white light. And I I don't know how long I was there. I can't determine time or space. I just know that I was there and I felt that I was at rest. The fear I had, everything that I had was gone. Everything was gone. I was completely at rest and there was stillness. Like I couldn't think and utter a word. I couldn't, like I went blank emotionally. Like there was no reaction. There was no fear, the panic that I was feeling. None of that existed. Then suddenly I began to feel like around here that somebody was looking at me. You know how you can feel when somebody's staring at you? My eyes were closed and I'm like, there's somebody here, somebody staring at me. When I opened my eyes to look, there was a man there. I'm not talking about a vision. I'm talking about in 3D, there was a man there. He looks human, but his skin was like the white of a paper. There was no melanin. It was completely white. He was right there. His cheeks, his face was three-quarter face, looking at me this way, looking at me with his entire eyes were completely blue, and there were marking on his face that I couldn't necessarily comprehend, but there were all kinds of like, almost like a tattoo, not exactly tattoo, but there were indentation all over his face. And he simply looked at me and smiled. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I've told that story before. For a moment there, I was so startled. I opened my eyes, I closed it again, I opened it again, he was still there. I peed on myself a little bit. Because you have to understand that maybe 2 to 3 hours earlier, when I got to the house around I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock, I had an invasion, what I thought was an invasion. I was scared. The only reason why I didn't scream and yell and ran out, it's because the skin of this man was not human in a sense of that I know human. And more importantly, there was such kindness in his eyes. I didn't feel threatened. And then slowly, I opened my eyes again to look at him. He did not speak. There were no words uttered, but he was communicating with me telepathically. I understood what he meant. And what he said to me in my mind, I'm going to teach you a way in which nothing in time and space can hurt you. I'm going to show you a way in which nothing in time and space can hurt you. I'm going to teach you how to be neutral. And I responded, yes, please show me. And in an instant, I saw a vision. It's hard to explain. It's like a wave just hit me. And then I saw the configuration of the torsion field inside of me. I could see it. I could feel it. And then I looked at him like kind of startled, and he said, now close your eyes, take deep breath and do it. And I did the configuration, and when I opened my eyes again, he was gone. He was not there anymore. But all the fears and all the panic in the world were completely gone. And I want to explain to you who he is, who are the guardian, and he introduced himself. He was like, you asked for help, here's the help. I am the God. We are part of the Guardian Alliance of Light. He's a Larian White. They're a Larian from Lyra Galaxy of all different skin tone. And this one is a Larian White. And it's one of the eldest race, the first race created, and they're highly, highly evolved and dimensional being. And the Guardian Alliance of Light is a collective of dimensional beings in all dimension of time and space, even 3D, 1D, all the way up back to God, all the way to the throne room of God. All of them have found a way to hold and to broadcast in themselves the energy of neutrality. What I mean to say by this is that they are not polarized, they are not battling. We in 3D seem to think that everything is a bifurcation. Right now in America, there's early voting and candidates, the two candidates, or there are two parties, and people are voting against one party or the other, one ideology against another. And we keep thinking that it's always a battle between one side or another. Positive, negative, men, women, day, night, etc. In the universe, there also exists at an atomic level, for example, proton and electron, one positively charged, one negatively charged, but they are also neutron. At a quantum particle, there are also neutrinos who are completely neutral, who don't react with anything else. This is what these collective represent, the frequency of neutrality. And this collective in all dimension is manifested by the creation of a torus. If you can Google that geometry, but a torus is an energy donut. It's an energy field where the energy runs along the edge of the donut and recycle back and forth in all directions simultaneously. So if you're in the center of the donut, okay, the hole is all around you, the energy wraps all around you and moves continuously. It's perpetual motion and it moves continuously in all different directions, all around you. It's called a torus or a torsion field. And the geometry that he showed me was nested torsion field. The first torsion field was created around me by them, by member of that collective that exists in the fourth dimension. There are members on the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth, all the way back to God. So they create around you as an act of generosity, as an act of radiation of their kindness and love. They share with me the same way when we're praying and we are in neutrality and we say to someone else we're trying to send love and healing toward, may the peace and the serenity and the neutrality that I know pass on to you. And then when you say pass on to you, you project your antakarana onto them. So they're using the antakarana, which is the rainbow bridge that takes you all the way back to God. And at every dimension of time and space, every time you pop, you go from 3D into 4D. For example, in 3D, we have 7 chakras. When we get to the 7th chakra, above me is another babushka, or another me, another Pierre, that's like a Russian nested doll. And that in that higher, more elevated etheric me, there exists chakra 8 to chakra 15. Okay? In that dimension, where that babushka of myself exists, that higher dimension of me, there exists also members of the Guardian Alliance of Light who, in that dimension, are offering their torus or their torsion field of light as a way, as an act of generosity in this instance, to help me bring me into further neutrality. So the torus was then created around me. I watched them. I took a breath. It came from the core of the earth, moving counterclockwise. It moved through my core, my antakarana, projected outside of my head. And when it was created outside my head, I could feel like filaments, lines, and energy field that were rotating in every direction all around me. 3D, all around me. And it extended out. Then beyond that, in the 5D, for the next dimension to open, above the torsion field at the top, like an axis extended, and then another 5th dimensional Guardian Alliance of Light member came in, this time clockwise, rotating the opposite way. So in the core, if you think the core of the donut, if it was around my head this way, when the next torsion field gets to be created, the energy, the center opens up. And then the next guardian comes through that gap and rotate this time clockwise and goes down, and it's nested. So the first one is inside, the second one is on top of it, but it's rotating the opposite direction. Does that make sense so far? I hope the geometry is making sense.
Yeah, yes. And are there 12 guardians in each nested?
Yes. I will get you for reminding. Yes.
And does one guardian control or manage each of the well, how am I say this? Each torsion field in the nested grouping of torsion fields, is that one of the guardians, or are all 12 already?
All 12 are there. So I didn't want to get to that detail, but thank you for bringing it up. So I wanted to explain the geometry first. So what happened is that the guardians, for example, the one in 4D, remember I said when I first saw it, the energy that they were creating, it came from the bottom of my feet, it moved through my core, it exited out, and there were almost like strings that were moving in every direction. It wasn't just one string of energy, it was 12. And actually, it's 12 antakarana, or a collective of 12 beings in 4D that have neutrality, that are simultaneously sharing as an act of love and generosity the neutrality that they know into me. And then when the next collective comes from 5D, coming the reverse way, now clockwise, the center of the donut open up, and then there's a gap or a space created, and then through that, a beam of light comes in, a kind of energy or clarity of light, whatever you want to call it. I can't, very hard to explain. And it comes in because it's actually scalar wave. The guardian lines of light do not work with light. It's scalar wave, which are faster and more potent than light. So it moves opposite, and it moves in opposite direction. And as it comes in and begin to spread on top of the first one, that's counter-rotating while they're rotating clockwise, and creates, again, filaments, 12 filaments. And this nested configuration continues. Then at the bottom of my feet, I could feel an axis extending, and then a sixth guardian, collective guardian comes in. Now, if the first one is 4D, the second one is 5D, this one is 6D. So they come in, and the center opens up counterclockwise. And the next one, again, center and torsion field gets created. The next one, again, opens up, and then another guardian comes from 7D and descends in the core clockwise. And this continues until 12 nested torsion fields are created. Now, by the time this is done, if you're doing it quietly, what happens is that there are two impressions. Because it's 3D all around you, you sense that you're expanded wherever they create the neutrality and they extend their protection, their field of neutrality. You can feel geographically with your eyes closed how far it has traveled. Okay? And more importantly, and the next one that's on top traveled even further and further and further. And more importantly, you become so deeply and so profoundly at rest that it begins to cast out all panic, all fear in your being. So all of that begins to be cast out. And it's important for us to understand this because the geometry as it is being created is, you can think of it as the beads of a necklace. Like I have this mala around my neck. The mala has a string going to its center. In order for each beads for the string to fit, they have to sit on top of each other, and the openings have to be aligned. So your core initially. And I want to emphasize this because the reason why the Guardian came in that day, it's because I decided not to retaliate. I decided to be. I remember in the conversation, I said something to the effect, when you're a giant, you move gently and you move gingerly. I cannot retaliate because if I retaliate, I will kill somebody. And I don't want that karma. I'm not retaliating. There has to be a different answer. And the answer showed up because I decided, I was listening to the universe. I decided this is not the answer for me. I have all the knowledge on what to do, but I'm not doing any of it because I want to do something different. Now, as a result of this, I can tell you that my life and everything else that happened since that time in 2008 until now changed completely. Completely. Because, okay, so I did the torsion field at 9, and the next day on Saturday, I did it, I think 2 or 3 times that day. And then Sunday morning before I left upstate to come back to New York, I did it again. And I felt fantastic. And I've been doing it over and over and over again. The result is that at the retreat center upstate, the torsion field is so anchored in there that it has become a portal through which other dimensional beings travel. What I mean to say is that many times we're doing retreats or they're just enjoying whatever, and we're sitting inside and you can hear the wheel of a car in the driveway against the crushed dirt and the gravel and everything else. You can hear a car door open. You can hear people's footsteps. And when you go open the door to see who is there, no one is there physically. But you can hear it. It is a portal through which other dimensional beings come in or attracted to and travel. And I have another student of mine who was very psychic who kept saying that the house, because of what the Guardian did, and it wasn't what I did. It's the fact that the Larian White showed up. This is the reason why the portal is there. And it's important for us to remember this geometry and to remember it for many reasons. One of which is that we are living now in a moment where there are so many events and circumstances in our lives that are terrifying. So many news about what we thought were foundational, were anchoring as status quo or being dismantled and crushed down and broken down to expose us to a sense of not being safe. And that sense of not being safe and being concerned about it it creates fear, it creates panic and all that. And all of that takes us out of neutrality. Right now for my practice, and since the beginning of the lockdown in March of 2020, I have moved, and it was very gradual and very brilliantly done by the principalities that have orchestrated all these changes to try to test us. Because even for somebody like me that used to do the torsion field, because I used to do it all the time, I would be walking, I would be thinking about the torsion field and let the Guardian come in and create the torsion field. I don't drive a car. The moment I get in the car, I sit down at the wheel. It takes me 5 minutes, and everybody think I'm warming up the car. I don't warm. It's not to warm up the car. I close my eyes and I ask the Guardian to come in and create a torsion field around the vehicle. I do it all the time, and this is the way I was doing it all the time. And I had a clarity. I always had this clarity all the time, and my soul was at rest all the time. And it's through the process of March 2020 and all of the stuff in my life that has exploded, as we all on the planet have been tested by since that time. I have been struggling to remember or to reconnect the way I did that day in 2008, in the fall of 2008. It takes longer and it's much more complicated for me to get to that place. And in a way, the torsion field is better for me because I now see details and begin to experience things that I didn't know were there. I remember when the Lion White I said to me, I'm going to teach you a way for nothing in time and space to hurt you. I was like, yeah, I'm going to teach you neutrality. I'm like, yeah. And I thought I'm declaring myself neutral. I thought that's what it was. It's not just that. Because one of the things that happen when you keep doing the torsion field as a spiritual practice, let's say right now I'm doing it 3 times a day, or sometimes even more, because I'm realizing I need to go back into this routine of doing it all the time because there is more dissonant, crazy, chaotic frequency and vibration. Right now we have solar storms that are mini X-class solar flares that are bombarding the planet at this moment. There's so many dissonant stuff that being neutral is a way for us to have the clarity that we need so that we can do the guiding and the shepherding that we're supposed to do for the rest of the world. And if I'm an emotional mess or I'm trying to process so many things and they're coming at me and I don't know how to process them, I will not have the clarity necessary to actually help anybody else because I will be busy trying to figure things on my own. And so doing the torsion field of the Guardian Alliance of Light more and more is actually very helpful for me to guide me into the neutrality and the peace and the serenity that I need at this moment. And as I do it multiple times a day, I'm beginning to realize that, and it doesn't take long. Once you understand what you're doing, when I guide you in meditation toward the end, it might take a half hour or more to do because I'm speaking. But once you understand what you're doing, you can do it in about 5 minutes. And so sometimes when I'm walking in long walk, I used to do yoga a lot at the gym. And when I'm doing the yoga, I go in the tree position on the left foot. As I'm on the left foot, I with my arms outstretched on the tree position, I let the guardian come in and create the torsion field. I go on the right foot with the tree. I'll have them do it again. And as I was doing it all the time, and it provided me what it's a flashlight effect. I feel like I have a spotlight above me, and there is a very specific frequency and energy of rest, of being unburdened. I don't know any other way to explain it. It's a very specific energy of being unburdened that the Guardian Alliance of Light create. Once you welcome them in and once you practice, and as the first Guardian comes in, you inhale, and then the energy counter rotates, and then as you exhale, and then the filaments go around and the donut gets created. And then you inhale again, and this time, since the filaments were created above you, you are now in source. As you are now in source, you inhale from source, and the energy of the second guardian comes in the 50, and it goes through your core, and the filament goes around on top of it, and it closes. It creates the infinity, the perpetual motion, and it rotates and now clockwise. And as that is created, your consciousness now is at the bottom of your foot. Then you inhale again, the sixth guardian, the third guardian, or the sixth dimension comes in. As you inhale, it moves through. And so it moves with your breath. What I'm saying is that with 12 breaths, the whole thing can be created. It's not rocket science. Once you understand the geometry and how it works, it's extremely easy and simple to do. And once you create it, and again, the way the torsion field works, first you need to be neutral. You need to do something like I did that evening which is do not retaliate. So you have to find a way in yourself to go outside of your comfort zone and do the opposite of what your reactive system would tell you to do. And if you can do this, you are neutral in 3D. And then at that moment, you can ask the guardian to come in and help support you by creating the torsion field of neutrality around you. And then they will come in. You're not creating the torsion field. It's not you with your breath that's forcing it. You're asking them to come in. And when they come in, they are seeking your agreement because they will not mix their energy field with you without consent. And when you give them consent, they begin to move upwards your body. And you can feel the energy moving as you inhale. And it goes around, creating closing the filaments. Any questions, any comments?
Oh gosh, I have several. I don't know where to start. First of all, I know that you've said that we in 3D are trainees, so to speak, for the guardianship of the 3D dimension. But are all other guardians Hilarion White?
No.
No. Okay.
The Hilarion White, I think, is in the 12th dimension of 10 dimensional 12. I don't remember exactly, but they're very high up. So in 4D, I don't know the name of the collective. And by the way, the Guardian Alliance of Light, it's from all species. They are not just humanoid. Do you understand? As long as you are a sentient life form that have accepted neutrality as your in your core, you are part of that collective.
Beautiful. And you've also said at times light, protection, and neutrality. Right. I suppose there could be said to be all one. My other question, though, was, as with the universe, the macro and the microcosm all relate, is the torsion field part of any other cosmic presence, either galactic or black hole or whatever? Does it appear in any other way, or is this unique to the Guardian Lights?
No. The torsion field is that geometry exists everywhere in the universe.
That's what I was thinking.
It's the building block of everything. That geometry, the torus, exists in flowers. It exists in the formation of a seashell. It exists everywhere. The magnetosphere of the planet is a torsion field. The heliosphere, which is the field around which the sunlight encapsulates our entire solar system, that's also a torsion field. The way a galaxy is also emancipate and flow, there's a torsion field. It's everywhere.
So it's the generator almost.
It's like the holographic universe. It's this right. Simple little geometry that multiply in all different scale, all different sizes.
It makes sense. And then you talked about the sun. Well, with these X-class flares that are increasing in intensity, maybe at another point, not to disrupt your projected lessons for tonight, you could help us remember how to address the sun, to be in a position of protection against injury from the X-class flares.
Yeah. So the sun, very briefly, the sun, the pole of the sun reverse every 11 years or so, 11 to 12 years. And when they're about to reverse, which is where we are right now, it's called solar maximum because in between, there's very little flare activity. But when it's about to reverse, because the magnetic north to south is moving, as it's moving, it's destabilized because the sun itself is a gigantic nuclear fusion reaction. It's a gigantic furnace. And what's holding the furnace in place is magnetic field, torsion field. And there are filaments everywhere that's holding the sun from becoming a nuclear, going supernova and exploding out. Those magnetic filament, when the pole is about to reverse, going up, north becomes south and south becomes north. When it's about to do this, the filaments become destabilized. And if you look in, there's a guy in the, what is it called again? The Suspicious Observer on YouTube. I follow his channel because he has a broadcast 5 o'clock in the morning every morning, and he tells you what's happening in the sun in less than 5 minutes, 4 minutes. What class solar flare, he analyzes it completely scientifically. He's a great channel. And so and sometimes, and he has the videos from NASA, from all of the satellites that are observing the sun. So in a lot of the videos, you could see the filament top to bottom, that all of a sudden the filament get disrupted. Like, let's say the filament is going up and down, and in a moment the filament gets disrupted and it bends out, and then it ejects from the sun. Now, when that ejection occurs, because there's a disruption of it, the release is magnetic and charged particle. Sometimes it's plasma. If you have a gigantic hole in the sun, sometimes there are sunspots that are just gigantic gap and hole, and it's just releasing plasma, which is a different state of matter, and a highly, highly hot, highly accelerated state of matter. And they're all charged particle, and when they collide with the magnetic, now the torsion field or the magnetosphere of the Earth, the magnetic field of the Earth, it deforms it, and it disrupts all electrical currents that are inside the Earth on a magnetic field. So the concern is about all satellites, its concern is about all power grid, etc. But to us who are human beings living on Earth, we are also electrical by nature. Everything in our body, from our heart to our brain to stuff in our cells, it's all electrical. And scientists have not made the connection that we too are impacted. When you have too many X-class solar flares that are colliding, it causes migraine headache, it causes sleep pattern disruption, it causes vertigo, it causes fatigue, and a sense also sometimes of itching, like not being right in your skin. And even the sensation for me at times, and this is like the last solar cycle, it was very scary. I'm walking down the street, all of a sudden, I feel like I'm on top of a roller coaster, and then the roller coaster just drops. It's just like all of a sudden my heart just drops. And I have to hold on to something, like a light, run to a light post and just hold it. And I'm like, I feel like I'm about to, but it's just momentarily. I feel like a disruption. Mm. I have friends just now, I was talking to her today, where she's breaking everything in her house. She was running to Target to get some more dishes and stuff because for the past 2 days, she's been dropping everything. And I remind her, it's a solar flare. She's out of balance. And I told her, I'm having a problem navigating my bathroom door. I keep knocking myself into it. I could do this I've been in this apartment for all these years. I could do it in my sleep. But I'm losing the control because my center of gravity is tilted to the side. I'm not, my axis is not in the right place. But look what's happening.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And so she got it. She was like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, that's what she said. Yeah, the same thing is happening to me too. I'm having a problem. I'm knocking myself everywhere on the walls. I said, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the way you address this, particularly when you have the migraine headache and you can't sleep and all that, what I do is that I pray to the sun. I ask the sun, I know that you're not trying to kill me or hurt me. You're the source of light for the entire solar system. And what the work that you're doing is that you're disconnected stuck energies and things that don't belong. I yield and I welcome you. And I allow you to do your work. As I'm resting and falling asleep, I put myself under your protection. and help heal me. And I go to sleep. And when I wake up, I typically feel so much better. The problem is that when these things are happening, we are so scared because we don't know what's happening. We try to hold on to the old accesses that the sun is trying to remove. Let's just say, put it this way. The sun is a catalyst for change. It's trying to emancipate us into a higher consciousness by removing the fears and the panics that we have, that things that don't belong. They're trying to dislodge them. And so it's important for us to understand that we need to yield and let the sun do this. And usually I take a nap. Drink plenty of water when these things are happening and take naps. Take a nap. But before you take a nap, do a simple prayer, an intention of telling the sun, I'm not resisting you. I know you're trying to heal me. I welcome you. Remove in me everything that's needed, that's necessary, and that no longer serves.
Would you call upon the solar logos?
Yes, Helios and Vesta, you can call upon them, or just think of the sun itself. If you can see it in your mind's eye, just think of the sun.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is important in preparation for the shift that's about to come, or that we're in the process of preparing for even now, to be ready for that. So the neutrality that the torsion field is producing, the release and the surrender of all of these fears and panic and issues that perhaps are even subconscious that are holding us back from that transition has got to be a very important part of our journey.
And to expand on what you're saying, Janice, and this is there's a little bit of a caveat with the torsion field. If you're really not neutral and you're still battling, and you've learned the torsion field from me, and you try to use the torsion field as a weapon to help you battle or to let you strike and then retreat into the torsion field as a protection, things are going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
Because the torsion field operates, because if the torsion field is 12 beads in a necklace of neutrality, you are the 13th bead. And if you're out of whack and out of balance, whatever you place in the torsion field, manifest. Listen to the tense of the verb. I'm not saying will manifest, I'm saying manifest in the present, immediately. This is important to remember. I've had many students of mine who were battling, okay, former students who were battling, and who could not understand why is it that after they did whatever it is that they were doing, that were out of, because they were warriors for life. And after the stroke, they did whatever they did, and they thought, I'm going to do the torsion field to protect myself. The very being that they struck against, the battle against, were inside the torsion field attacking them. Because that's the intention you put in the torsion field. And that intention will get bigger. So that's the first caveat with the torsion field. The other one that we need to understand as well is that there are times we're not battling. We're struggling to become more neutral. And really, it's an entire process because our consciousness have been so domesticated for millions and millions of years to be in polarization, to think of things as black and white or that or the other, that we have been lied to in such deep level that we're still doing it subconsciously and we don't even realize we're doing it. So what happened a lot of times is that as you're doing the torsion field, what occurs is that over, let's say, for example, first guardian comes in, second guardian comes in, third guardian, and the fourth guardian, all of a sudden, while all of these guardians are coming in, suddenly, and one of them, you have an experience that seems very disjointed to neutrality. It may be a scene of battle. It may be a scene of you attacking or somebody trying to attack you. It may be a scene of that cause you a bit of panic, a bit of worry, or a sense of an energy moving around your head or doing something that seems to be what's the word uh, uh, nefarious to you. That's because you're not neutral. In that dimension, the part of you that's in that dimension, remember I said the Russian nested egg. We have the 12th dimension the Guardian exists in. We also have 12 versions of ourselves with higher chakras that exist in those dimensions. Whatever part of you exists in that level is not in neutrality. And it may take you going back and typically speaking for me right now, it's the 7th Guardian. That when 7 to 8 Guardian, when I make that transition, that's when, for me, there's something that the part of me that exists in those dimensions, they are working on the refinement and the understanding of their neutrality.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And yes.
Pardon me, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What I was going to say is that because that's happening, you will have an experience that makes you feel like, wait a minute, what just happened here? This is not supposed to happen. I'm supposed to be in neutrality. And at that moment, you need to process and you need to keep going back and repeating it until you understand the lesson, or the part of you in that dimension understand the lesson and emancipate in wisdom to yield into neutrality, after which you will not have that experience again.
That's very good, very good. I wonder if you could expand just a moment about the battling that you mentioned. Are there other forms of being not neutral that might not include battling? For instance, if you're challenged with something in your life and you are, like I usually am, trying to be in control to work out the solutions and instead of surrendering to them, would that be akin to not being neutral?
Yeah, and what I was thinking more of in this instance, it's people who are literally battling or people who are intuitively scanning.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, this is gonna sound like a diss for people who are empath, but it's not a diss. It's me being very direct and very honest. Just because you can feel everything and you're highly emotional, it doesn't mean that you're emotionally intelligent. They are two separately and completely different things. Emotional intelligence is the management and the resolution of emotional conflict. To feel everything doesn't mean that you like you walk into a room, you can feel what everybody's feeling. You walk into a room, you can and people who are usually that empathetic and that are feeling everything ends up most of the time battling. Because let me explain. What people who are that sensitive, who can pick up everything, don't understand is that when you walk into a room, and part of the reason for this is because in past lives, these individuals have had many experiences in which they had to scan rooms to protect themselves because people were empathetic, people were intuitive, psychic, or whatever, were born on the stakes or were killed for their gifts. So in order to find good energy and find good environment, many of them spend many, many lifetimes scanning, trying to find good energy to protect themselves. But the scanning is a violation of one of the universe's most important law, the law of non-interference. You are not permitted to commingle your energy grid with anyone else unless you have consent. You have permission and you have consent. So when you walk into a room and you're trying to scan people, or you're on mass media and you're constantly trying to sense the energy of this person. Let me see if this person is telling me the truth. Let's see if this person is intuitive. Let me see. And the person did not give you permission to do all this. You're raping the person psychically. And that's patterning. And when you're doing this, and then afterward you try to do the torsion field, the person itself, because it's a violation. Think of a woman walking down the street and I walk behind them and I put my hand underneath their skirt. That's what you're doing energetically. But the person has their own defense system. That defense system will strike back at you because you violated them. And then the impact, suddenly, oh, I'm the victim. I've been violated. This person has bad energy, they're attacking you. They are not taking responsibility for what they did first. You're the one that initiated the attack by scanning them. It's one thing to be a witness and to simply be neutral around people and just accepting them without judgment. When you're scanning, you're constantly tactically analyzing because you're judging. You're constantly trying to figure out what's good and what's not good. And you're putting everything in a box. Whereas when you're neutral, you're simply a witness. Because when you're in neutrality, you're zero charge. Nothing can attack you. Anybody that's charged will try to penetrate you. And I'm going to tell you this. Many times I've done healing for clients, either physical healing or remote healing. Because I use the torsion field all the time, that's the foundation of everything that I do. Many times things detach from them. I see dragon, I see all kinds of energy, demons, and the stuff. And when I project, let's say, may the peace, the serenity, the neutrality that I know pass on to you, and I project it. If the person has something that's bad in them, it will detach immediately. When it detach, what does these parasitical forces do? They will seek the nearest life form to try to attach to, because they cannot survive without a host. And in this instance, I am the nearest. But because I'm in neutrality, I could see it. It moved and it tried to move toward me, and it passes through me like solid object was trying to move through smoke. It passes right out, and it hits it on the other side. However, if while this is coming, you go, oh my God, you're scared, it will connect to you. Because you're no longer neutral. To be neutral is to be a witness to everything that's happening around you. And you're of this world, but you are not in it. You're detached from everything. Does that make sense?
Yes, and very interesting. So, just to precise what you've said, aside from the battling that you describe, the violating kind of energy reading, that before you start the torsion field, assuming you're not engaging in that, the neutrality that you would want to achieve first in 3D involves that neutrality of surrender of anything that is of a concern to you without any fears, panics, or need to control. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And I'm going to say something else to you, Janice. Fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
Okay? What I'm saying is that there are times when you begin, let's say, first torsion field in the morning at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, when I get up, I'm doing the torsion field like that early. And as I'm doing it, there are times where I'm realizing I'm not completely neutral. Then what happened? 2 hours later or 3 hours later, when I have a moment's break, I go to the bathroom or I go in the kitchen to fix myself some coffee or something else. As I'm doing this, I stand for a moment, I do the torsion field again. By the third time I do it, I am neutral in 3D.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, thank
By
you.
the repetition of it, okay? Eventually the neutrality just cascades, because what the guardians are doing, and this is what we do when we made a peace, the serenity, and will pass on to somebody else. When I do this, what we're doing is that we are dislodging the neutrality and the peace that we know, and we're placing it, projecting it into somebody else with the hope that they will remember and seek it out.
And can you do that to the collective of humanity?
Yes, you can. That's what entrainment is about.
Mhm.
So the guardians are doing exactly that to us by projecting their neutrality into us. And if you keep repeating it like 2, 3 times, all of a sudden, what was difficult in the morning is no longer difficult. All of a sudden, you're there.
I ad nauseum, I'm sorry, but if you're faking it until you make it and you're repeating the torsion field, you're not at risk of expanding.
You're not, because you're trying to learn neutrality.
Okay.
Whereas somebody who's scanning and attacking is doing this deliberately as a tactical thing. In your instance, you're trying to understand and learn it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That's good.
The energy is extremely forgiving and extremely welcoming to novice, to people who are trying to understand it.
That's very good to know.
It's when you're using it, and I've had instances. I've had one of my former students who almost committed suicide because of this, because she was scanning and doing all kinds of stuff that were not appropriate. And I've had that conversation with her several times, and she was still doing it. And all of a sudden, all of these dark forces were all over her. Her boyfriend had to catch her going on the ledge of a window.
Hmm.
And I told her, stop doing the torsion field. You're not ready for it. You cannot help yourself. The only way you can exist is by scanning. So this is not, you do this, you're going to hurt yourself.
I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome. So the thing we need to also, I need to explain here as well, is that the guardians, the energy itself, once it's established, creates almost like, because it's basically their version of ourselves that exists in those 12 dimensions that are above us. 3D all the way to 15D. And the guardians are projecting onto all the parts of yourself that are in those dimensions and neutrality that they know, so that you can experience it and you can welcome it and you can exist in that space. I'm going to say something else, add to this. The energy of the guardians, or the technology of the guardian eyes of light, is actually one of the basic building blocks of the order of Melchizedek of neutrality.
Oh,
What do I mean by that? Because once your axis and your own antakarana becomes completely neutral, all the way back to God, you have restored yourself and realigned yourself to the celestial axis. Because my antakarana, your antakarana, all of our antakarana are nothing more than a hair string into a giant collective braid called the celestial axis. And it's the axis around which the entire universe rotates. Think of it as the prime mobile, not the prime mobile, but the axis mundi. It's the axis around which the entire universe rotates. And think of it as being the ultimate torsion field for the entire universe. And all these other toruses and torsion field are leading into it. This is true cosmics technology. It is true celestial technology. Any questions, any comments? As I said, what's going to happen is that next week I will talk. And here is the other thing as well. The torus, once the Guardian gets created, it's not a flat thing. It's 3D and it's all around us. Okay, it completely surrounds. But remember, I had said earlier, Janice had pointed it out, I said earlier that there exists 12 Guardian. Although in the meditation I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about the first Guardian, the second Guardian. But each filament that comes in, first Guardian, has actually 12 antakarana separately braided together, acting as one. And if you sit in each one of the torsion field, let's say, for example, instead of doing one breath for the torsion field, you take 3 or 4 breaths and you sit in the first torsion field for a moment, you will begin to notice that, think of yourself sitting in a clock, and at 12 o'clock is in front of you, 6 o'clock is behind you, 3 o'clock is on your right side, 9 o'clock is on your left side. You will notice that, and all the other hands are in between, you will notice that at every point on the clock, there is actually a filament, which is the antakarana of a being that's projecting the neutrality that they know in their dimension into you to try to acclimate you and entrain you into neutrality. It's an act of love and compassion and mercy. So the idea and the concept there is to hopefully emancipate you and yield you and elevate you into the neutrality. But what's going to happen is that, as I said, the reason I'm saying I'm introducing the idea of the clock, it's not really a clock, it's a mandala. It's an entire mandala with 12 points. And you will notice if you take several breaths, there are times I'm in a rush, I only have 5 minutes to do the torsion field, right? But there are the times on weekends or when I have in the evening or early morning, if I wake up very early, when I have more time, I have 30 minutes. I can spend more time and breathe, take several breaths in the first torsion field, 3 or 4 breaths. And the second one, I do the same thing, and the third one. And as I not only get more detail, but in terms of where these guardians are around me, I see how far the torsion field is. Because what happened, I become now, as I allow myself to be neutral and all the 12 beads around me are neutral, I am now the grounding rod in 3D for the energy of the Guardian Alliance of Light to create entrainment of neutrality for the rest of humanity. To remind people, as far as in my consciousness, I see the torsion field go, everyone in that circle of influence is receiving the broadcast that is being released from my connection to the Guardian Alliance of Light. I am just nothing more than the transmitter for that frequency and that broadcast. I'm the grounding rod. And that's a powerful thing to understand. It's not your energy. It's not just you doing it. It's you co-creating it, playing your part. Does that make any sense?
More than that, it's beautiful.
So, aside from the torsion field or the Guardians of Light explanation for this week, next week we're going to talk about the entire mandala. Okay? The monadic merger and the placement of all of the guardians and the filaments and everything else. And then The week after that, we're gonna talk about our own uh, our own monad on the mandala, and then the guardian merging with our own monad on the mandala. Because all the fragments of our monad, wherever they are on the mandala, sometimes they are not in neutrality. As explained, when we are sometimes 7, 8, 9 guardian, all of a sudden you have a flash of memory or an experience where you feel pulse on your body, like almost like something is penetrating, something is moving, something is twisting. It's because the part of you that exists in that dimension is not in neutrality, or actually is trying to learn how to become more neutral. It's not an attack. That's what I'm trying to say to you. If you feel that it's not an attack, it's that there's a part of you that's not yet neutral. And it may happen for a month or 2 weeks or whatever. And then all of a sudden, once that part of you understands, it dissipates. It's a sludge. I know for those of you who've been doing this with me for a while, you have experienced this. And I'm going to say something else to you. For us to guide humanity into the new earth, particularly at the moment of the galactic equator crossing, that torsion field is the key. We need to be collectively in the torsion field, like the 12 guardian that are projecting in 4D, in 5D, the neutrality that they know. We need in 3D to be in such connection to the guardian and alignment with what they are doing, that we are going to project that to the rest of the world. Because as you're doing the torsion field and you're aware that it's an entire energy donut all around you. It's not a flat picture. It's not some flat geometry. The moment you see this and you understand this and you realize how far geometrically that field has extended around you, you understand the responsibility that every life form in that geometry, in that circle of influence, is now receiving the broadcast that you're getting from the guardian of light. And it is through your co-creation that this is happening. And that's a beautiful thing. I know this is advanced stuff, but I want you to understand that this is important. And the video is going to go on YouTube for those of you who are going to be there to kind of like review it. It's going to go on Patreon tomorrow as well, so that you can review it and you can absorb it. We covered quite a bit of material, and you need to listen to it a couple of times to understand all the detail. It's going to be 3 classes that are interrelated. So we're going to build upon what we covered tonight, next week, and then the week after that. Any other questions or comments? All right, let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll welcome the Guardian Alliance of Light and the torsion field neutrality. 5 minutes. Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Let your mind and your heart sync with each other. And notice what you noticed. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I release all attachment, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. And the guardian alliance of light approach you, offering to gift you their shields of light and protection and a band of neutrality. If you're ready to accept these gifts at this time, answer affirmatively and let the energy of the first guardian begin from the core of the earth, counter-rotating, moving through the bottom of your feet, passing through your core as you inhale deeply, exiting outside of your head, and as you begin to exhale outside of your head, release all of it into source. And let the first guardian create all around you a torsion field of neutrality. In souls, the center of the donut extends and the axis projects out further, attracting the energy of the second guardian, cascading down from source, rotating clockwise, dropping to the top of your head and passing through your core, exiting at the bottom of your feet and going to the core of the earth, while creating on top of the first torsion field, counter-rotating. Now a torsion field that rotates clockwise with the energy of the guardian broadcasting neutrality. The axis at the bottom of your feet extends, whilst attracting the energy of the third guardian, counter-rotating. The center of the donut extends, bringing in an energy of light, protection, and neutrality, moving through the bottom of your feet, passing through you, exiting outside of your head as you exhale completely into source. Release and let go, and let the torsion field of neutrality be created on top of the other ones. The axis at the top of your head extends and it attracts now the energy of the fourth guardian, cascading down from source and creating now in your core, while rotating clockwise, a torsion field of light and neutrality passing through your core, exiting at the bottom of your feet, and going into the core of the earth. And now expanding all around you, this energy donut and the filaments creating all around you a torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the bottom of your feet extends and it attracts down the energy of the fifth guardian, coming from the core of the earth, counter-rotating, bringing in an energy of neutrality, moving through the bottom of your feet, passing through your core. As you begin to exhale, let it now be released outside of your head, and release everything into source, while creating all around you, on top of the other torsion field, an energy donut of neutrality. The axis at the top of your head extends, and it attracts down the energy of the sixth guardian, cascading down from source, bringing in the energy of neutrality, moving through your core, passing through your head, your central core, exiting outside at the bottom of your feet into the core of the earth, while creating all around you a torsion field of neutrality, the energy donut on top of all of the other ones. The axis at the bottom of your feet extends, and it attracts down the energy of the seventh guardian, beginning in the core of the earth, counter-rotating, bringing in an energy of neutrality, passing through the bottom of your feet as you inhale this energy deeply. Let it move through you, exiting outside of your head and exiting while you exhale, and bringing all of that energy into source and releasing it completely, while creating all around you a torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the top of your head extends, and it attracts down the energy of the eighth guardian, cascading down from source, rotating clockwise, bringing in an energy of neutrality. And as it moves through your core, passing through your head, exiting at the bottom of your feet, it drops into the very core of the earth, while creating all around you, on top of all the other torsion field, the energy donut and torus of neutrality. The axis at the bottom of your feet extends, and it attracts down the energy of the ninth guardian, coming in from the core of the earth while rotating counterclockwise, moving through the bottom of your feet. This energy of neutrality moves through your core, passing through you, exiting outside of your head and going into source as you exhale completely. Surrender and let go, and let it create all around you a torus or torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the top of your head extends, and it attracts now the energy of the 10th guardian, cascading down from souls, bringing in the projection of an energy of neutrality into your top of your head, passing through your core, exiting at the bottom of your feet, and going to the core of the earth, while creating all around you a torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the bottom of your feet extends, and it attracts now the energy of the 11th guardian, counter-rotating, bringing in an energy of neutrality that moves through the bottom of your feet, passing through your core, exiting outside of your head, and releasing into souls and creating all around you the torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the top of your head extends and it attracts now the energy of 12 guardian cascading down from souls while rotating clockwise, bringing in an energy of neutrality, passing onto the top of your head, moving through your core, exiting at the bottom of your feet and into the core of the earth while creating all around you a torsion field of neutrality. Observe the 12 counter-rotating axes that are spinning in your core, and become aware of how far the torsion field has extended in your local earth grid. As I become a witness I release all my burdens into the torsion field of light and neutrality of the Guardian Alliance of Light. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a beautiful connection.
You're welcome, Janice. I want to also remind all of you, do not do the torsion field while being horizontal or laying down. Your trunk and your torso has to be vertical. Vertical. Otherwise, you're going to be sedated. It's not that it's going to be negative. You're going to be floating for days. I use it when I'm doing healing on a client that's horizontal. I create the torsion field around them. It sedates them and brings them down so that they can receive the healing. You do this yourself, you're going to be floating for days. You're going to be completely ungrounded. That's what I mean. All right, everyone. I want to thank you all for being with me tonight and for listening in. We will continue this conversation for the next 2 classes with more advanced concepts being introduced each time. As always, subscribe to the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening to us on Patreon. I will talk to you next week. Blessings, everyone. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Good night, everyone. Love you.
Good night. Good night. Love you too.